You ever been in a room where it feels like literally everyone is showing off their new ink and you're not? You look down at your arms and they're just, well, blank. It can definitely make you feel like the odd one out. But what if the choice to stay tattoo-free is just as deep and complex as the choice to get one? Let's get into it.
Right, it's such a common feeling these days. I mean, your social media feed is basically a walking art gallery, your friends are all talking about their next session, and you're just not. And sometimes it feels like you're the one who needs to explain yourself. But we're about to see why that choice is way more than just a simple no thanks.
And here's why it feels that way. Get this, a whopping 46% of millennials have at least one tattoo. That's almost half the generation. So yeah, you see endless videos breaking down why people get tattoos, but almost nobody talks about the flip side, the psychology of the people who don't. And that's exactly what we're going to dig into.
Because here's the thing. This isn't just about not liking needles or, not finding the perfect design. The decision to stay a blank canvas is actually rooted in some pretty big ideas about who we are, our relationship with time, and how we fit into the world. It is absolutely a choice, not just a lack of one. So, first up, we've got this fascinating mental puzzle that I call the permanence paradox. And trust me, when you see it laid out, it's kind of wild how much sense it makes. Just look at this. We'll happily sign up for a 30-year mortgage. We'll commit to one person for the rest of our lives. We'll decide to have kids. All of these are incredibly permanent, life-altering decisions. And yet, the thought of a tiny, permanent tattoo on an ankle? For some people, that sparks a level of anxiety that feels completely off the charts. So what is going on there? Well, a key psychological idea here is something called future self-continuity. It's basically how connected you feel to the person you're going to be in 10, 20, or even 30 years. For some of us, that future self feels like a totally different person, almost like a stranger. And this is the result. If you don't feel that strong connection to your future self, getting a tattoo doesn't really feel like a choice for you today. It feels like you're forcing this permanent mark onto someone who haven't even met yet, and they have to live with it. It's not about being indecisive. It's this very real gut feeling that your tastes, your beliefs, and your whole personality might be completely different down the road. And that brings us perfectly to our next point. This isn't just about being afraid of a future you that you don't know. It's about actively wanting to leave space for that person to grow and change. It's about seeing yourself as a constant work in progress. This way of thinking is called a fluid identity orientation. If you have this, you just don't see yourself as some finished product that you can slap a label on. A tattoo can feel like a permanent stamp that says, "This is who I am." But your whole philosophy might be that who I am is something that should always be allowed to evolve. For these folks, the whole point is to avoid what psychologists call identity foreclosure. That's a fancy way of saying you commit to an identity before you've really looked at all the options. So getting a tattoo can feel like shutting a door on a future version of yourself. They want to stay open, stay adaptable, and not be tied down by a statement they made in the past.
But here's where it gets tricky. You have to ask, is this always a healthy philosophical stance, or could it be something else? Psychologists suggest that sometimes this constant need to stay open isn't just about growth. It can actually be a sign of a deeper fear of commitment, or even a fear of truly getting to know and define yourself. That line can get really, really blurry.
Now, of course, this isn't all just happening inside our own heads. We don't make decisions in a vacuum, right? A massive part of this choice has to do with how we think we'll be seen by the outside world. A lot of people who don't get tattoos are constantly running a kind of subconscious cost-benefit analysis. They're weighing things out. How might this affect my career? What will my family think? How might strangers judge me? It's this quiet, ongoing calculation that plays a huge role. The official term for this is impression management, and we all do it. It's that very human impulse to try and control the way other people see us. But for someone who really values that control, a tattoo can feel like a total wild card. It's a permanent variable that once it's on your skin, you can't take back or manage anymore. So the big question becomes, what's really driving that calculation? Is it just smart strategic thinking, a way to navigate a world that, like it or not, still has its biases? Or is it maybe closer to social anxiety, where the fear of what other people think actually holds you back from expressing yourself? The truth is, it's different for everyone, and neither is necessarily good or bad. It's just human.
Okay, and this brings us to our last reason, and honestly, it's probably the one that gets overlooked the most. Because for some people, this has nothing to do with fear or social pressure. For them, having unmarked skin is a conscious, positive, and deeply personal choice.
I absolutely love this quote because it just nails it. We often think ink equals depth, that tattoos are how you show your story. But for a lot of people, all that meaning, all those memories, all that identity, it's carried on the inside. A lack of symbols on the outside doesn't mean there's any less substance on the inside.
This all ties into something called an intrinsic identity orientation. It's the belief that who you are is completely separate from anything you wear or put on your body. These people don't need a tattoo to remember what they've been through or who they love. That knowledge is just part of them. In a way, it's kind of like minimalism for your own skin.
And this right here, this is probably the most important distinction we can make. There is a huge psychological difference between actively choosing a blank canvas because it aligns with your philosophy and passively avoiding getting marked up because you're afraid. One is an act of self-expression, the other is a reaction to anxiety.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's that the choice to stay tattoo-free is not about being boring or unadventurous or scared. It's this rich, complex mix of thinking about the future, wanting your identity to stay fluid, being socially aware, and for some, embracing a really cool minimalist philosophy.
Because in the end, whether you're covered in ink or you have completely blank skin, both paths are just different answers to the exact same fundamental question we all ask ourselves. Who am I, and how do I want to show up in this world? What matters isn't the choice itself, but making sure it's a choice that feels authentic and true to you.